Hello there, welcome back to the channel and a new video for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. Today I'm potting up. I've been doing actually quite a bit of potting up over the last week or two. Today I'm going to do my big Spitfire bicolour. This is a cactus flowered variety, quite unusual in many ways, but we're going to have a pot up of that. I'm also going to look at the difference in Regals when they flower and when they branch to grow. Be able to show you the differences because I'm trying to get a standard out of one of my smaller plants. So we'll have a look at that as well. So let's get going. Hello there, well welcome back to the channel. It's a busy time really, very busy time at this time of year. It's a very stormy day here in Oxfordshire today. The wind is blowing a gale. We're getting storms coming through about every half an hour. Our wet spring continues. It's very unsettled spring, quite unusual because we've had a good number of springs now that have been really quite dry, but this one is turning out to be one of the wettest ones we've had for quite a number of years. Good in some ways because the water butts are keeping well filled, so I've got plenty of water to sort of, water my plants. But it's that time, because it's relatively cool, you've got to be a bit careful. And if you're in the UK, just try and sort of measure how much water you're giving your plants. Don't go overdoing it yet. I understand, I'm actually filming this on the 12th, I think it is today, Wednesday the 12th of April. But next week is supposedly meant to be getting much warmer, the first sort of warm spell, if you like, of the main spring season. So you'll probably need to up your watering a bit then, but just go a bit careful in this transition phase with the watering. I'm being probably a bit over careful, to be quite honest, getting one or two yellowed leaves, probably for not watering enough. Example here, this is a young copthorn plant. Got a little bit of stress going on, but that as much is probably due to a lack of water. I'm just being very careful with the watering of some of these plants. Very vibrant green at the top there, all the growth is fine. They can handle being dry, but I watered them this morning. Now I think what I'm going to do, we'll make a start and have a look at a Regal. Now Regals grow in a slightly different way to zonals. With zonals, got a young standard here. They grow and flower. They throw a flower stem from their main sort of growing stems. So they flower and grow on the same stems. So to train a standard, for instance, on a zonal type plant, this is a gold leaf variety as it goes, doesn't really matter. The growth is very easy to monitor in because you can just cut out the side shoots and just cut off the flower blooms because they're all growing off the single stem. But Regals do things a little bit differently. I think I've explained this in the past. We'll just have a look. I'll just grab this Regal that I want to give a little bit of a cut back to. Now I've just closed right up to this Regal. I wanted to grow this as a standard. But Regals throw a completely separate branch for flowering. And that's why at this time of year, when Regals are wanting to get away with flower, it can be difficult to train them because a lot of the head that they're throwing is purely for bloom. And in this case, you can see that this central stem here is just full of bloom. This is full of buds and bloom. And I've got two good growth stems growing out either way at the top. Now I have cut back all of these side shoots here because I'm wanting to grow this as a standard. Typical Regal, it's developing quite hard wood on this main stem already, even though this is a young plant. It's only 11 months old. You could see potentially a mistake here that you could make in cutting out these two side shoots here and retaining this central stem if you wanted to grow on as a standard. This will not produce sort of any further growing point. This is purely growth for buds and flower. So I have basically got to cut this central stem out and choose between these two to grow on as the main stem. You can tell the difference because we've got side shoots coming out of both of these. We've got a head of growth and more flower stems, more young flower stems, I should say. You can probably just see that in there. Hopefully I can close in on that in editing. And we've got another one exactly the same over there. So you can see that they're the growth stems. And this is just something you need to bear in mind if you're trying to sort of train Regals. I'm literally going to take this centre stem, which is nothing but flower, right out. I know you'll probably think it's sacrilege really, but I really want to get this growing as a standard, and I've got plenty of other plants of this. And there we are, that's entirely come out. That's purely flower stem. And that's the difference in Regals. They have this separate block for flower and a separate block for growth. And now I've got to make a decision as to what one I'm going to choose for the continuation of this stem. And realistically, I think the best one is going to be that one, because that's growing sort of straighter. That's going to be a much easier sort of angle to get a straightish stem. Doesn't matter if they minorly buckle. It's never brilliantly easy to get Regals to grow straight. So this is going to be fine. So I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to take this one off. I mean, I could potentially get a cutting from this, but I've got plenty of this plant. It's a plant called rhodamine. You can probably see it's wilting marginally, and that's because it is very dry. I knew I was going to do a serious bit of cutting back on this. So it is very dry, but this will heal off very quickly. Just going to tidy that cut up marginally. But there we are, I've made quite a good job of that. And that will continue to grow up now to produce, to add length to this stem. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I will now keep that dry for several days just to make sure that that is well sealed off. Now, amongst the other plants though that I have potted up, I've done a couple of my larger Regals that have got to a good size. Now, in potting these out, it does have to be said that I didn't have a single mark or spot of root mealybug. No problems whatsoever. They have been potted. One of them was well over a year, had been in the pot. No marks or no trace whatsoever of mealybug. But as I've said, today we're going to have a look at this Spitfire. Now, it is growing. It's very, very dry. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to have to do is get my bucket and have a look at this root ball. Now, it is in a, what's it in? It's in an 8-inch pot, I think. And I've got to make it, I'm going to base my decision on what I'm going to pot it up to, on what state this root ball is in. Because I'm virtually certain that this will have mealybug in it. Primarily because it's been in this pot, because I always have a potted history on my plants. It's been in here since the 9th of October 2021. So that's, I mean, it's not 2 years, it's say about 19 months, isn't it, to October. So it's been in here a long time. Now, it is growing well. Root mealybug does affect plants in slightly different ways. Sometimes it affects them badly and really knocks them straight away. Other times they don't even bat an eyelid and they continue to grow without any problem at all. But this one has been putting on a bit of growth in this sort of new season. I've had a couple of ghost shoots. That's where we have growth that's got no chlorophyll in it. I'm going to take a leaf off there. That's not quite a ghost shoot. It's got a little bit of chlorophyll in the leaf, but the ghosting or the pure white leaf is almost there. You want to get rid of those really, certainly pure white shoots, because that takes the strength away from those breaks. So you certainly want to get those ghost shoots out. They take a lot of energy away from the plant, and it's not at all good for the plant to have to try and make those shoots or leaves grow. So you want to get them out as soon as you see them. Right, so let's have a look. Let's just see potentially how bad it is. I'm just going to have a slight reorganisation here. Another thing, of course, you may notice, I've only just realised, is that I have whitewashed the glass house. That was something I had to do. The sun's getting strong now. I've got the greenhouse closed and it's got up to 20 degrees in here now, but it's really quite cool outside. But it's important to do. The sun is very strong now in the UK from this time, sort of mid-April. So you have to get whitewash on the glass house if you're going to keep plants in your glass house. Obviously, if you keep it more or less empty, you don't necessarily have to do that. But if you're keeping plants in your glass house, you've got to put the whitewash on. Right, so tap it out and let's see how good or bad it is. Now the signs are initially pretty good. There's not much, if any. I'm actually really quite shocked at this because there isn't much at all. I am going to have to upend that pot. Wow. The telltale marks, of course, are almost like chalk deposits on the inside of the pot. And look at that. Not a thing. That's really good. I'm really, really pleased with that. And you can tell, look, on the base, you've got lovely fresh root growth going on. Now, as a precaution, we live in a really bad area for root mealybug. I will probably use a root insecticide on it just to make sure that it carries on being clean. And so that's good then to pot on. We can get that into a much bigger pot. I always like to loosen the root ball a little bit when I'm potting on. Just going to loosen the base of that. Now I'm going to put this in quite a big pot now then. The concern was I was going to have to really crop a lot of this root ball out. And I would have had to have basically repotted it in the same size pot. But I don't need to do that now. I can get it up into a much bigger pot to let it really grow on. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to tip a little bit of this solution here. It's, as I say, it's basically a vine weevil killer. But it gets rid of any sort of root-bound insects. So I'm just going to tip a little bit in the base of this saucer and let this root ball soak it up. And that's all you need to do. As I said, I mean, a lot of people don't have issues with mealybug, but certainly where we are, we get a lot of problems with it. So I now am going to go away. I'm going to find a pot to put it in. It'll probably be quite a big clay pot. Right, okay, I'm back. I've actually just washed a big clay pot. Had to sterilise it, clean it out, because it was stuck right at the back of my pot shed. The weather's changed since I've done that. It's absolutely pouring down with rain now. Right, so I've got some compost here. This is quite a light compost. My normal sort of mix of just normal sort of compost with a good bit of drainage, lots of perlite in it. Probably about a third perlite drainage material, so yeah, it gets good drainage. Now, speaking of ghost shoot, I've got one there and I'll cut that off and show you. And there it is, so I'll show you that at the end. There we are, yeah, that's fine. Now you'll notice that I've got a double stake in this. That's quite fine, that's all right, no problem at all. Now what I'm going to do first, let's make sure that it is the right height. It is the right height, relatively level. I'm just going to tip the remaining part of this root-based insecticide just over the top, just to run down. That's fine. Not much left, it's soaked up most of it. So I'm really quite happy with that. You can probably hear the storm that is bashing down onto the greenhouse. I've just got, with this giant pot, I've got a little lack of room there, but turn that round now. yeah, that's my disappointment, I think, with Spitfire. It's not the most prolific of bloomers. It's a shame it doesn't flower a little bit more. But, there we go. Hailstones now as well, just to add to the excitement. Well, I'm just going to give it a little tamp now to just sink it down. I think that's just about okay. Dead straight. Couldn't have got it straighter if I tried, actually. Now, because I've actually effectively watered this by giving it that bit of insecticide, got to be careful with the watering now. You're not going to need to give it a monumental amount because it's effectively had a root ball water anyway. So what I will probably do now, just give it a little bit around the top just to effectively firm the compost. But that's going to be about it. We've got 2 driven stakes. Now, I'm not intending to push these stakes down any further. It would be too awkward anyway, to be honest. If I need further stakes slightly later in the season, I'll just put a new one in and tie it in. But these stakes are quite deep anyway. I mean, that root ball was a good 8 inches or, well, 20, over 20, say around 22 centimetres deep. So, it was quite, it's quite a deep root ball. It's not going to go far once that gets established. But as I said, I would just put a little bit of water around the top there just to firm the compost on it. And then it'll be put back in its same place, just so that it acclimatises while that root ball sort of develops into the new compost. And then it'll be put outside in the summer. Around about sort of, late May, early June, once all risk of frost has passed in the UK. We have been having very cold nights just in the last couple of nights, actually. Not far, I went down to about 4 degrees outside last night, so we're still not far off freezing point at night, so you've got to be very careful. And there it is, there's the ghost shoot. Pure white, you see. There's no chlorophyll in that at all. And that would just sap the strength of the plant. You have to cut those out because they're not going to do anything. And it's a great effort on the plant to be able to make that grow. So get rid of them if you see them, cut them out because they're not good. They may look relatively attractive, but they're taking energy away from the plant. Right, so there we are. I'm just going to literally dribble the lightest bit of water just to tamp this surface compost down a little bit. And then I'll wait for that to get completely dry on the top before I consider watering it again. Just update my label. Okay, so that's just about it from me today. As I say, there's a lot going on, so I'll be doing another video in the next week or two. And remember, if you just come along and have a look at this video and you're not subscribed, think about subscribing, put your notifications on just to see when I put a new video out. I'll have to try and get a new one out about once every 2 weeks. But at this time of year, we perhaps get a few others as well on this channel, and I intermingle those with my own channel, Mr Pelargonium on YouTube. So I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.